Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I have a new layout and video to share for Pink Fresh Studio, and this layout is going to begin with this beautiful cut file. It's called Pine Bough, and you can find that over in the Pink Fresh store. And then I cut some of just the square part of this cut file on a couple of pattern papers from the Home for the Holidays collection. And I had an idea flowing, but that's going to change as I go. So for now, I just want to color this beautiful cut file. I cut it on some white cardstock, and I'm going to add lots of mixed media to it. And so I want to prep the cardstock with some white gesso. And this is just going to allow the colors to kind of smudge and blend without ruining the paper, because there's so many little intricate details on this cut file. I didn't want any of them to break off. So now that the gesso's dry, I pulled out some of the green colors of the Pink Fresh mini cube ink pads, and I'm going to use them as watercolor. I'm using an old Cameo mat here, and I'm just turning the ink pads over and kind of stamping them down and adding a little bit of water, and then just using my brush to color the cut file. So I'm basically just treating this as I would watercolor. So this is just another way to use the ink pads. You don't necessarily have to use them for actual stamping. So I'm going to tell you all the colors that I'm going to wind up using. I've got a lot of them, and they're all right in front of me, so I don't know, I don't remember the order that I use these in, but what I've got here in front of me at the moment that I'm using for the green is Emerald City, Meadow, Mint, and a little bit of a light blue shade, which is called Ocean Breeze. And I'm just kind of mixing a couple of those shades together to get some lights and some darks. I always like to make things look as realistic as possible, and so I like to do some darker shades and some lighter shades. So I also painted the square outline in the green, and then I came back, and now I'm going to do the berries. And so I'm starting with some reds and some pinks. I'm going to do the same thing here. Just stamp it right onto the mat there, and then add just a little bit of water, and then start to color it with my brush. So the dark red color there is Berrylicious. The bright pink color is called Raspberry Bliss, and then the pink on the bottom is called Coral Reef. And so these are a great mixture to get that reddish pinkish color. Since these are Christmas berries, I wanted them to be red, but I also wanted them to look pink. And so I'm kind of just doing a mix and match of those three colors to kind of get some variation. And then off camera, I don't think I filmed this part, but I do go back with a couple of browns later to color in the stems and the twiggy parts of in between the berries, and I used gathered twigs and dough. So if you aren't familiar with these little mini cube ink pads, there are 48 different colors, I believe. Since there are 12 liquid watercolors, each of the watercolor has 4 different shades of that color. And so there are basically any color you could imagine. All right, so I let that dry. I added a couple more shades to make everything just the right color. And then here's where I change my mind on my design idea. I don't even wind up using the other squares that I cut, and I'm actually going to cut the square off of this one. So I'm just going to wind up using the twigs and the berries there. And you know, I always tend to do this. I have an idea that I start with, and then once I get going, I take a break and I have a whole different idea to try. So I have these two pictures. They were taken around the same time, even though they look totally different. I'm going to wind up using both of them. They're just some cute pictures I took of my daughter. She was running around outside a couple years ago in one of her little Christmas shirts. It was right before Christmas, and she never sits still. So I just ran around chasing her and taking pictures of whatever I could get. And I thought they both looked cute. So I went ahead and printed both of those out. And so I want to do some mixed media on my background, and I'm using some thick, smooth white cardstock here, and I'm trying some new gesso, and I have a new little silicone brush there to brush it on, thanks to one of my amazing online scrapbook friends. She sent that to me, and I'm using the Art Basics, I think. What's it called? Let me make sure I tell you the right. Yeah, Art Basics Gesso. It's clear gesso. So I let that dry. It's actually, it's smooth. The Liquitex clear gesso is what I usually use, and it's gritty. So this is smooth, and I really like it. I like both of them. It just depends on the look that you're going for, I guess. Now, what I'm going to do here is, if you've seen the Home for the Holidays collection, there is some of that dark navy blue color in it. And so I wanted to do a little bit of something different on the background, since the cut file has got a lot of reddish pink and a lot of green. I wanted to do a contrasting color on the background, but I didn't want to do turquoise. So I thought I would go with this darker blue. So I'm using the Liquid Watercolors here for the background. A little bit of the brush, a little bit of packaging, just all kinds of ways to get this color on the background. And I blended in, actually I already had these colors on my little paint palette there, but I'm starting with the sapphire blue, and I mixed in some of the black, which is called licorice, and it was really too dark at first. So I just kept working with it until I got this really pretty navy blue. And then I added in a drip of aquamarine. So the look that I decided to go for was mostly this darker navy blue with hints of aqua. And I think it turns out really pretty in the end, but it takes me a while to get there. My backgrounds always take me a while to get there because I do add so much liquid and so much water that, you know, it does take time to dry. And I found that over time, one of my favorite techniques is just to, you know, put the color down, spritz it with water like I'm doing here, and then just letting the colors run and blend. I still love the packaging technique, and you can kind of see the difference here on this paper. When I used the packaging technique the very first time on this actual paper here, I didn't use that much water, and you can kind of see the shape of how the packaging dried versus how it looks when I add water and just let it kind of run around the page. And I like both of these techniques, and I kind of just used a little bit of both of them here. And I should have let that dry a little bit more, but I dabbed it up and it pretty much took all the color up. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm just impatient a lot of the times. I should let layers dry before I come in with the next layer, but you know, the average scrapbooker wants to keep going, and so that's me. You know, I hate waiting for things to dry, and sometimes I like the way it dries naturally versus using the heat gun, and I didn't want to use the heat gun on this. I wanted to just let it dry on its own. But I was really fascinated at the difference here in how the packaging technique looks versus just the spritzing, and then when I turn the paper this way and that, it looks totally different. It is fun to experiment, and I honestly have never tried a different type of gesso before. I've always used the Liquitex, and so I think trying a different gesso like this Art Basics that is not gritty has a totally different effect, and so it definitely matters, I think. I mean, gesso is gesso. It's going to do the same job, but the effects are different, and I think that each gesso, each brand, you know, reacts differently with the products. And so I've only used that new gesso, well, it's not new, it's new to me, a few times, I think, once or twice, and I like it. But yeah, I like how this paint looks on this gesso here. I feel like these colors look really pretty, and I wanted this to be, I wanted it to look navy blue, which is a dark color, but I still wanted it to be on the soft side. I wanted it to be able to be seen through and around the cut file and around the photos, but still be kind of on the subtle side. And I did want lots of splatters, so I, you know, use the same colors with my brush there, and I just keep working on it. And you kind of see where I keep putting the cut file back. That is pretty much where it's going to go. And then the photos are going to be over to the left. So I decided to go just a smidgen darker. So this is where I do use the packaging technique again. And I just kind of go over the same areas that I've already done. And you can kind of see there it is slightly darker. And I did add more splatters. Now, this is after I took a break. I came back and I studied this for a while, and I thought, I need some more dimension on this. And so I went back to my computer and I cut the cut file on white a second time. And on this one, I'm going to keep it white and layer it underneath the colored cut file. And so it's going to just create some texture and some dimension. And I think it winds up looking really, really cool. And plus it just adds some white because, you know, it makes me think of snow, even though clearly, you know, she has on a t-shirt, and I live in Florida. So there's absolutely zero snow in any picture that I'm gonna post. I have some pictures of snow on my honeymoon back in the year 2000 when we went to Lake Tahoe. So I do have a couple of pictures of snow, but I think I've scrapped all of those before. So, but anyway, I like using snow elements on my layouts just because they just have that feel. And I love how this looks very wintry. I'm using lots of the die cuts and things from Home for the Holidays, which is the Christmas collection for this year from Pink Fresh Studio. And there's that dark navy color I was talking about. I'm going to use this just a little bit of that pattern paper as a layer behind the photo that's going to go on the left. And I've already gone through all of the puffy stickers. Well, I say I've already gone through them. I still wind up going through them more times than once. But I picked out some of the die cuts, some of the stickers and things that I want to use to embellish. And, you know, I don't want to do too much embellishing. I don't want to go overboard because I feel like the background and the cut file take up a lot of space, you know, and I feel like they're the star of this show. And so I don't want to make it look too busy. So I have a couple of leaf or stem type of die cuts that I'm going to add over here to the right corner, sort of where the leaves meet the stem of the berries. And then I'm going to put the photo where she's looking back over her shoulder. I'm going to tuck that underneath the berries because she's on the left side of the photo. And so there's a lot of open negative space to the right on that photo, so it's perfect. That's a perfect type of photo for overlapping something on top of it because you can still see everything that's important in the photo, which is her, and it still allows you to create dimension. And that was very easy to do. Just layering something on top of the photo like that creates excellent dimension. And then the photo on the left, she is looking down toward the right. So that's why I put that picture on the left. So it looks like they're both looking at something, even though it's the same kid. And who knows what she was looking at, but I still took the picture. I'm going to tuck in that little Christmas tree and that little deer, which are both so adorable, over on the left. And then another green stem underneath the center of the two photos. And then I'm using some navy blue thread there to tuck in because I wanted some more pops of that navy blue here and there. That's a cute little puffy navy blue bird sticker that's going to go up into the little stems there. He's just flying around. And then a couple more die cuts. I try a couple stickers here and there. Like I said, I didn't want this to get too busy, and I didn't want to cover up much more of the background because I wanted it to be visible. I do add some stamping on this. I pulled out the Abstract Builder stamp set from Pink Fresh, and it's got some perfect little leaf stems that are perfect for this cut file. So I'm just using some of the Emerald City. I think it was Emerald City or Meadow that I'm using there to just stamp a couple of subtle leaf sprigs here and there. It's just a very subtle thing. I'm just stamping that right onto the background. And then I decided to add a little something at the top. This is a sticker that says Joy, and it's that navy blue color. And then I knew that I wanted to use these white puffy alpha stickers for the title because it's going to be very subtle. And I'm going to just go with the title Holly Jolly because it's pretty much the same word, just one letter is changed. And I could put one word above the photos and then one word below the photos. And it's very subtle. Not too big. I didn't want a giant big title because I really didn't have a place to put it without it overlapping the berries. And I didn't want to put it up top. So I do add a little more thread up at the top just for some texture and some more pops of that darker blue. And then I'm going to glue the cut file down in a couple more places. And I did some machine stitching off camera. It's hard to see because I used white thread, but I just stitched right through both of those title words. And then the last thing I'm going to do is draw in some lines for my journaling. And I always seem to use my gold metallic pen, but on this one I was feeling silver, so I'm going to use my silver metallic pen, which came with the gold one, but I just don't use the silver one that much. I didn't want to use black because I didn't really have any black going on in the page, so silver it is. And then I add the date, and that's it. I love how this turned out. Completely different than my original idea of using the squares that I cut from the very beginning, but that's okay. You know, ideas change. You take a break, come back, and you see things differently, and then, you know, you make an entirely different layout. But here are all the close-ups. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun to make. I really love how all the texture and dimension turned out. I think by adding that second white cut file underneath, it just made all the difference. And so sometimes all you need to do is layer some things together and it just changes the entire look of the entire page. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to link all the products down below that I used, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.